What can I do with my super? Probably one of the most common questions I get asked as a financial advisor. Just a disclaimer, information in this video and presentation is of a general nature only, doesn't take into account your financial objectives, situation, or needs. We recommend obtaining personal financial advice before making any decision. So when the question, what can I do with my super, is asked, the first things I think I encourage is to first know your super better. So read your statement. You should receive that via email or post on a yearly basis from your current superannuation fund. If you know what superannuation fund you're with, most of them will have an app that they provide that you can put onto your phone. So you can put it next to your personal banking apps and you can check your superannuation just like you do your personal banking. If you are not aware of where your super is or don't know how many funds you have, going onto MyGov and checking through the ATO section, their database will have any of this superannuation that's linked to you, and it'll appear there on MyGov. Once you do know your balance, at the bottom there, I've got a link for a cool tool that's provided by the Association of Superannuation Funds Australia, which is called the Super Detective tool. If you click on there, you'll be able to type in your age and it spits out a balance. That balance, just compare it to your balance to get a gauge of where you're at. I'll have the link in the description below as well. When it comes to the key age for superannuation, really there are three main ones that we discuss most commonly. So age 18 is when you can set up your own superannuation fund. Prior to that age, you can have a parent or guardian set up an account for you. But this is usually the start of the longest phase, which is the accumulation phase, and probably the phase where I get most questions around what can I do with my super, and I will shortly go into the options that people have, all the schemes that are available to people in this period of accumulation. But just to round it out, the preservation age is between ages 55 to 60, depending on your date of birth, and that will be where you can get access to your super if you have a certain criteria met, such as ceasing a work arrangement or beginning a pre-retirement pension. The big one is age 65, which is regardless of your work situation, that's where your super is fully accessible to you to withdraw or begin an account-based pension or leave it where it is. But as I mentioned before, a lot of people want to know what they can do with their super in this big period here, and some of the options I'll present here on this slide here. So the from the top of the screen, the First Home Super Saver Scheme. So this is for individuals who they're over the age of 18. They have never owned property, and they're intending to live in the property for at least six of the first 12 months of owning it. And what it allows them to do is make voluntary super contributions to their super and build up to $50,000 to withdraw to fund the deposit on a house, on their first home. If you're a member of a couple, your partner can also do that, making a total of $100,000 that you can put towards your deposit. Now, something that people probably do not completely know is the main two types of funds that most people are in because their employer puts them in it or sets it up for them when they first start working for their employer, is an industry or a retail superannuation fund. These funds often have quite a few functions and capabilities and features that you may not know that you're thinking you may need to change to go elsewhere, like using a self-managed super fund. But say, for example, you want to buy ETFs or direct shares, that is mostly one of the features that you can find in a lot of retail and industry super funds. So once you know where your balance is, once you know what your super fund is and you've set up your app, you'll start to see some of this functionality and control. And there is, because of a lot of the innovation, there is a lot available to people who are wanting to get more control of their industry or retail superannuation fund. In terms of self-managed superannuation fund, this is people who want to buy property through super. And there is a trade-off in this, in the sense that you become the trustee of your own self-managed super fund, which means you need to ensure that all the funds in your self-managed superannuation fund are used for the purpose of building wealth for your retirement. There's greater compliance costs in most cases. There's greater time requirement, and there's greater responsibility overall for the trustees of the self-managed superannuation fund. It needs to be written in the trust deed from the outset that you want to purchase property or you want to be able to borrow to purchase property within that self-managed super fund. And there's strict criteria on how that property is used because it needs to fulfill the sole purpose test of building wealth for your retirement. The other option, which is really in times of need, is down the bottom of the page, special conditions of release, which allow early access to superannuation for things like severe financial hardship, compassionate grounds, death, or permanent incapacity. You don't really want to be using these ones, but they are there in times of need. But that can also be a trigger point for accessing funds in between those key ages that I mentioned earlier. Overall, I believe when people ask, what can I do with my super, they're really wanting to know how much they can control and whether they can get more out of it. But once they find out more about it, they download the app, they find out where they're invested, and they see the earnings that they're getting, they're actually quite pleasantly surprised. They feel like they do have control, they do have the ability to do other things with their super, and they can map out something that's going to help them for the long term.